October 6, 1901, the Clinton Morning Age, Clinton, Iowa. Premonition of Death. In his autobiography, A Sailor's Log, Rear Admiral Robley D. Evans relates a strange incident of premonition which a fellow sailor had the night before the attack on Fort Fisher in January 1865. He says, "We had on board the Powhatan a fine young seaman named Flanagan, who came from Philadelphia. On the night of January 14, he came to my room with a small box in his hand and said to me, 'Mr. Evans, will you be kind enough to take charge of this little box for me? It has some little trinkets in it, and give it to my sister in Philadelphia.' I asked him why he did not deliver it himself, to which he replied, 'I am going ashore with you tomorrow, and I will be killed.' I told him how many bullets it required to kill a man in action, and in other ways tried to shake his convictions. But it was no use. He stuck to it. He showed no nervousness over it, but seemed to regard it as a matter of course. I took the box and, after making a proper memorandum, put it away among my things. On the afternoon of the next day, when we were charging the fort, and just as we came under fire, at about 800 yards, I saw Flanagan reel out to one side and drop, the first man hit, with a bullet through his heart. I stepped quickly to his side and asked if he was badly hurt. The only reply was a smile as he looked up into my face and rolled over dead. The box was delivered as he requested, and I afterward assisted in getting a pension for his sister. February 21, 1895, Ludington Daily News, Ludington, Michigan. Strange story of 3 red lights. Richmond Times. "The most peculiar case I ever heard of," said a telegraph operator, "occurred in our own family. My father was an engineer on the Chesapeake and Ohio Railroad running into Richmond. One night, while quite a distance from the latter city, in nearing the end of his run, he saw a bright red light on the track several hundred yards ahead. The signal was also seen by his firemen and the front brakeman. The train was at once stopped, but not a trace of the signalman or light could be found, and the track was all right. Father looked at his watch and noted that the time was 8 o'clock. The train pulled out, proceeding cautiously for some distance without meeting any obstructions. Several miles further the light was again seen. Once more stopping, another search was made with no more success than before. This happened at 8:28. Father was never superstitious, but this was inexplicable. Much mystified, he proceeded on the way only to be stopped a third time by the red light at 8:15 o'clock. Another search by the crew failed to disclose the slightest trace of the mysterious signalman. Finally, giving up the search, the men returned to their posts, and the train at last pulled into Richmond without further mishap. When Father alighted from the cab, a telegram was handed to him announcing the death of his mother. Without delay, he went to her home, which was several miles out of the city on the railroad. Soon after his arrival, he learned that a telegram had been sent to him while he was out on duty, summoning him to grandmother's bedside. The time at which Father had seen the mysterious red lights was indelibly impressed on his memory, and upon inquiry he learned that at precisely the minute the first light was seen, she had asked if he had come. She repeated the question at the time he saw the second light, and the appearance of the third light was simultaneous with her death. April 15, 1899. Clinton Mirror, Clinton, Iowa. A mysterious vision. Scene of an Arizona murder is accurately portrayed by a girl in Chicago. A student of the University of Chicago is authority for the following weird and occult story. One Sunday not long ago, the student says she sat looking out of a window at Foster Hall, thinking of nothing in particular. Suddenly, there came into her mind a mental photograph, a vision of a settler's shanty alone in the midst of a vast plain. It was a wild and flat-rocked and treeless mesa. The sun beat down with almost the heat of a northern summer. Not a human being, nor a living thing was in sight. No bird skimmed the high blue sky. The shanty was a one-roomed frame house. Inside the shanty, a young man lay stretched on the floor, dead. He was entirely alone. His attitude and his expression, as well as the disorder of the furniture, indicated that he had been murdered. The young woman was entirely unable to account for her vision, and it vanished almost instantly. She wrote down the description of the scene, hoping that in the future some reasonable explanation might offer. A few days afterward, a friend came to visit her. Among the first things she said was, "I had such sad news in a letter Sunday. A brother of a former schoolmate has been murdered mysteriously on his ranch in Arizona." She went on then to give a description of the ranch, the lonely house, and the man found dead and alone. The university student now explains her vision on the theory of telegraphy. The letter was received by her friend in the same hour in which she saw a mental portrait of the ranch. The student believes that her friend's thought and image of the murdered man were transferred to her own mind. Chicago Inter-Ocean. October 6, 1901. The Clinton Morning Age, Clinton, Iowa. A dream of treasure. Small boy's dream locates money which is really there. Dreams are often unaccountable, and perhaps what I am about to relate may interest your readers. When quite young, I was only 7 years old then, I lived with my parents at a villa in Trieste, Austria. For weeks and weeks I had the same dream, although not nightly, namely, that in the nighttime I found myself at the bottom of the garden in my nightgown, scratching at a little heap of earth, and found copper, silver, and gold coins. And suddenly, looking up, I found before me, and watching me, the sister of the landlord of the villa, an old haggard woman. Having dreamed this so often, I naturally related it to my mother, who repeated it to her friends. These friends, who were of a superstitious nature, tried to induce my father to buy the plot of ground in question. But he would not listen to such absurdity, as he was an unbeliever in spiritualism. Well, some years later the landlord had occasion to build a lodge at the bottom of the garden, and while digging for the foundation, a large sum of money in copper, silver, and gold coins was discovered. How is it that a mere boy of 7, without any knowledge of the place, or of the history of the owners of the said grounds, should have such a dream, which turned out true?